All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh Juice, an Indie Game podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy Fresh, and joined as always, it is
Maddie Juice.
Oh,
Look at that.
What is going on, my friend? What is happening?
Just living the life, having a good time, and ready to talk about some indie games. You know how it is, especially this week's indie game. Should be quite an interesting one.
You got that right, folks. We are covering a game. It's the beginning of the year. Not a lot of releases, but we did find one that we felt would be worth talking about. It's called Beyond Citadel. It's I guess what you would call a boomer shooter or a Doom-like or something like that. And it's an interesting game. There's a lot to talk about with it, and it surprised us, I think, in a lot of ways. So stick around. We'll tell you all about it. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're into the throes of 2025. So what's going on? How was your week? How was your New Year's?
Yeah, it was good. Had some people over for a little New Year's get together. You were there. Which was cool. So yeah, that was fun. It was a good time. I actually realized as well, just because of TikTok, I was like, you know what we should have done? Because we don't have cable. So like we have, even the official streams for like New Year's are delayed, right? So I was telling Maria, I was like, we should have just booted up Animal Crossing, and like they do like the whole countdown thing, and everyone's cheering and all that stuff. We should have just done that because that would have been synced up perfectly with the new year. So maybe next year if we do that again. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's been good. Got back to work, which is never fun after a break. But getting through it. Only had 2 days last week of work, and then the weekend, which is nice. And then our buddy Pluto, our pup, graduated from obedience school, so that was cool. And we're signing him up for like therapy training, just to like kind of keep it going and get him to be, a good pup around everybody. So that'll be starting next month. But yeah, other than that, it's just been the back to the grind, back to the huge, playing some indie games, getting ready to talk about them, But what about you, Tommy? How's everything going with you?
It's good. New Year's was fun. We got breakfast the next morning, which was fun, and then we went to go see a movie, one that I'll talk about probably at the end of the show. And I mean, I didn't really take any time off, but I back to work, and it's really been weird because my boss wasn't there. So I started this new job. First week, boss was there, met him. After that, it was like Christmas and New Year's. Boss took off, right? As one does. So I didn't really see my boss. And then I come in today, and he's in Florida for like a big kickoff the company's doing. So I haven't seen this guy since my third day of work. So there's all these questions that I have and all this stuff that needs to be approved that he's just not around for. So just dealing with that. It's pretty interesting. But
yeah.
And I didn't get paid, which is kind of a bummer. I was supposed to. And I went in and I looked, and I think my routing number was wrong. So I changed it. And I hope that I still get the money that was supposed to be sent. Because it was, the bills are coming, folks.
Yeah.
But besides that, played some Flesh and Blood over the weekend. We went to a holiday party on Saturday up in Wanacue, New Jersey, way up there in the sticks.
Wanacue.
I always thought it was Wanaki, but
oh yeah.
I don't know. Everybody says it's Wanacue, but I always thought Wanaki sounded better, but what do I know? That was fun. They're all Slovaks, so like a lot of like pierogies and stuff. So that was really good. Nice. And yeah, now we're here. Our two teams next week are playing against each other in the playoffs.
They
So
are.
Monday is going to be awkward, folks.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I won't be watching that game. I will tell you that because I already planned another podcast at that time. So I was like, no, I don't have to worry about it.
I'll keep you updated. I'll send you some texts.
My phone will be locked away. But yeah, it's going to be fun no matter the outcome. But
yeah, it should be some good games next week.
As long as it's the right one.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much been it. But we do have some news. We do have a Discord. Holy smokes. Check it out. We get incredible questions from the Discord. You'll hear some later in the episode. You know, we're on like honestly a legendary run right now with questions from the Juiceheads in the Juicehead Discord. So check that out and have a lot of fun in there and hang out with us. And once I want to stream more games in Discord, but I got to figure out how to make my hardware work because Discord has like an issue where I start streaming, shuts off my mic.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, and like my whole audio interface shuts off. I can't hear or talk. Right?
Wow.
And, I mean,
that makes it even better. Yeah. We'll just see you playing. Wow, that's pretty wild. Yeah, we'll have to look at that because that's
there's
weird.
Tons of Reddit posts about people having the same issue, even to the point where they'll get like their keyboards and mouses shut off.
Wow,
when it happens. Okay. So it doesn't seem to be. I think Discord updates at like kind of iceberg speed.
Yeah,
and it is what it is. But hey, listen, it's a good time in there. And you dropped something in there today about a game that is free on Steam currently.
Yeah, it just kind of popped up. Actually, one of my rec rooms a bunch of episodes ago was this app that kind of notifies you when games are free. So I still have it installed, and it just notified me that this game on Steam called Jaded, and I linked it in the Discord. That's JADED. Is free on Steam. It's an early access game. It's a platformer. And apparently it's free until January 25th, from what the app told me, at least. I'm not sure if that is 100% true, but figured, might as well add it to the library. It looks cool. It's got, for all of its reviews, it's overwhelmingly positive, and then most recently, very positive reviews. So, yeah, it just kind of seemed like a cool little free game. The description is platform and fight your way through mountains and forests to accomplish your purpose as a jade being. Slow down time using your 360-degree directional dash and lock on the targets to strike. Fight soldiers and creatures on your quest in this gem of a game. Wow, I mean, in the description, it's calling it a gem of a game, but I get that it's tied into the jade aspect as well. But little conceited there, we'll see, but yeah, it just looked cool. So if you guys are interested in a game like that, I would say just at least add it to your library, but I think we rarely see this too on Steam, where like a game, I don't know, I feel like I always see it on like the Epic store to claim a game for free. I feel like I rarely kind of see it on Steam for a game that's actually has great reviews. So yeah, it came out in 2022 as well, and I never heard of it. So feel free to pick it up, folks. A little bit of news there.
You've heard of it now, folks. Check it out. Now, it is a slow news week, but rather than just getting straight into the review, I do want to play a little bit of game with Maddie.
Ooh.
This I kind of got I follow these guys, something 64 on. They do. I think they have like a podcast and a gaming channel.
Yes, I've seen them before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like two brothers and a couple other friends.
Yeah.
They do like some random drafts or whatever, and they did a blind draft, I think it was called, but basically where I'm going to name games, and I'm going to see if you can figure out what the common thread is between the games that I'm naming by the time I get to the fifth game.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. We'll see how this goes.
Starting off strong with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Okay. Cars.
Okay, all right.
Is that kind of the idea where I'm like, they all have cars, or they all?
Yeah. They all have cars. Okay. For example, there was one that they did on their TikTok that was no dedicated jump button.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think even
Okay.
like Mario Kart was on there, and then like God of War or something like that, and Last of Us, and what the heck is this?
Oh,
So
wow.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the first game.
Okay.
You said cars, that's not right.
Okay.
First of all, it's carts.
Carts. Sorry. Yes. I apologize. You're right, because it's in the name.
Second game is Soul Calibur 2.
I don't know. Link, Zelda, Link. He's in both of those, isn't he?
Yeah, actually, that's it. You got it.
Did I?
Yeah,
That's the Link.
Yeah, that's the Link.
Hey, there we go.
So it's gonna be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Soul Calibur 2. I think Soul Calibur 2 might have been a little bit too much of a.
Yeah.
I should have done that a little bit later or first, and then did some other ones. Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Cadence of Hyrule was gonna be the last one, and then also Super Mario Maker 2. Link makes an appearance.
Oh, okay.
I started off with like 3 good ones, and I was like, oh wait, Link doesn't show up as much as you hoped.
Yeah.
I just assumed he'd be in a lot more games than just Zelda games, but
right, yeah. I'm trying to think of like what would be a good game, because like Soul Calibur 2 is a good one if you're maybe, I don't know. For me, like I didn't
casual.
play. Yeah, like I'm like I just think of Link immediately when I hear Soul Calibur 2. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's not in a lot of other non-Zelda games.
Yeah, I looked them up, and I was like, "Oh man, this is not going to be as good." But maybe we'll do more of these. If
Yeah, I
people
like that.
you know, it'll be fun. Now, let's get to this game. Beyond Citadel is an anime-style retro throwback shooter inspired by the classics of the '90s.
Ooh.
That's when we were born. With realistic gunplay mechanics, anime violence, and fast-paced combat. You know how much I love anime violence. Fight your way through the heavily armed mechanical fortress and discover the secret that lies beneath. Beyond Citadel, let's get right into it. You kind of get into this very basic menu, just like hop right in. There's a couple options on difficulty, get a little bit of a tutorial that you can go through, and you play as, I am sorry, but I don't know if I remember the main character's name, but you play as this purple-haired young lady who is, well, let's be honest, is scantily clad. And if you're watching the YouTube, you're seeing it right now, and or on Spotify, which we do put the video there. Thank God the video is a little blurry.
That's not for me.
No, not for you.
It's crisp. Yeah.
It's very crisp, so it's blurry for me. So, you know, this character is certainly wearing like kind of a mech suit where it's like not unlike Samus Aran, right? Where you kind of have like this exoskeleton thing going on. And the gameplay is very much running around, shooting, you know, regular FPS style, like you're playing a Doom game with these enemies that kind of get alerted to your presence, start running at you. There's a couple different enemies in the first section of the game, and you kind of get like a audio cue when they're coming. Hey, and it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't feel very. Like you almost want it to be a little bit like a Metroidvania, like because you know you have this mech suit that you hope that get like upgrades and stuff like that, but you're really just running around shooting, finding weapons, and kind of opening up certain doors. So it's very linear, right? You know, you're just kind of going through. There's some exploration within the Citadel, which is what you kind of run to in the beginning of the game, and yeah, you're blasting through enemies, and and then you got a boss fight, and then you continue to go on through the different acts in the story, which the story is we'll talk about. But in terms of like the gameplay wasn't like not fun for me. It was certainly, it felt relatively smooth for a boomer shooter here, with maybe a little bit more of an updated skin, I think, because it didn't feel like what was the one that we played? Xenophobia? No. Exophobia?
Yeah, exophobia, yeah.
Xenophobia is a real thing. I don't know why. Exophobia. Like, exophobia, like, felt like a true Doom shooter, just, you know, very limited in what it's doing, and this had a little bit more going on, more weapons, it felt like, and honestly, like, there are parts of this game that are pretty scary for multiple reasons, but you're kind of going through this dungeon, right? And you they'll jump out. Like, there's a horror element to it where, like, it would just jump out, and, like, the thing is, when you die, the character's not making holy smokes. the, the 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 visuals in this game are something else. um,
if you're not watching the video portion of this, you're missing out. All right, because it's just quite a sight to see.
So I don't think the gameplay was bad, is what I'm saying. There's definitely, like, some really surprising stuff. It played pretty smoothly, and you know, if there were certain other elements that were changed, I think I would have enjoyed this game a little bit more. But now, when you die in this game, which will happen because it can be pretty difficult, especially like when you're going through a new area and these enemies kind of pop out of nowhere and, like, start making noises, you're like, oh my god! And I had my volume on pretty loud.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got, like, really scared. But when you die, the character screams. Like a blood curdling scream. You're just like, oh. And, we'll talk about on the visuals, but we'll get to that. But it was fine. It's like I didn't think it was great by any means in terms of the gameplay, but it totally played fine. That's like the one thing this game probably, in my opinion, has going for it, and we'll talk about why. But what do you think? You play a lot more FPSs than me, so you might be able to have a better opinion on this game.
Yeah, look at that video there. Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think the gameplay was fine. It's obviously, not going to be kind of the yes, it's not a modern shooter, right? So it's not going to have a lot of the bells and whistles that a modern shooter has. But it did like successfully feel like the boomer shooters like Wolfenstein and Doom from back in the day. And I think overall with the gameplay, my biggest issue was that the enemies were, you kind of always defeated them in the same way, which I know is I feel like it was probably like that, right? And back in the day with those old shooters as well, from what I remember. But I don't know. I mean, you can still modernize it a little bit. I mean, there were still environmental hazards and things like that. Like you could shoot like barrels that explode. Some enemies were like shielded. But I still felt like at the end of the day, I was just kind of just pointing and clicking and just like, making sure that I don't get hit, kind of like strafing in and out from cover and just kind of defeating enemies the same way. So I was kind of hoping as I progressed, especially since it's broken up into different zones, different levels, and then you get to the boss level. I was kind of hoping that the enemies would have a little bit more variety. There are, there's kind of these little slime enemies that you deal with. There's the ones that scared me the most were like these big kind of like spider looking things, or whatever you want to call it. And it was mostly because they blended in with the background. And I was just like, Jesus, in like the area that they were in. And then you kind of get into like these more humanoid enemies. But they all, at the end of the day, I felt like I was just using the same method to kill them all. You do get different types of guns, but I mainly just stuck with one gun. It seemed to work fine the entire time. So that was my biggest problem with the gameplay is just, the core gameplay was fine, but it just wasn't like super exciting for me, and didn't have a lot of variety with the different enemy types. And basically, I didn't feel the need to even switch weapons because I didn't have like there was no like scarcity of ammo for me where I felt like I needed to switch weapons. I always kind of felt like I had enough ammo for the shotgun that I was basically using the entire time. Um, One thing also is that there's certain things, there's obviously drops in the game after you kill enemies or if you find chests or just like items, in these levels. Most of the time, I don't know what these are. I don't know if it's something I missed during like the onboarding or the tutorial, but I feel like some of them you can understand, right? Like you pick up like a health unit. I think they call it a blood bag, and you can use that to heal yourself. But it wasn't for a while. It took me a while to realize, oh, you're picking up food too, and you can use that to heal yourself as well. And then you also pick up like these O2 canisters that can help with your O2 levels, and then also like you're picking up these gold pieces that you assume you can use at the shop, but you don't know when you're going to find a shop. Um, and so yeah, I just kind of felt like I think there was other things that you pick up as well that I was just like I don't even know what this is. Especially I think after I beat the first boss, there was like something I picked up and I was like, oh, is this like an upgrade? And I went over to like there's like a little kind of upgrade panel that you can go to, and there was nothing there, and I was just like, oh, I guess that wasn't kind of a buff or an up. I don't even know what it was. So that's one thing that like I think from a gameplay standpoint they could do a little bit of a better job with is like maybe when you pick up something new for the first time, it tells you, there's a little dialogue that pops up and tells you what it is. And that's what I kind of mean with like modernizing it a little bit. It's okay to like be inspired by those old school games, because I think it does a fine job with that. But in terms of like, I don't know, just kind of the quality of life things that I think it could add to the gameplay that would just make it better overall. Those little details would really make a difference for me. I also found the shop at one point, and this is something that's more going to be on the art side, but I definitely had a problem with like the UI in the game. There was a point where I went to a shop, or at least it said it was a shop, and I did not know how to access the shop until I made it to the next shop, and I was like, oh, there's a button all the way in the corner over here for me to access the shop when I interact with this person, versus it being right in the center, or just accessing the shop when you talk to the person, rather than having to go through dialogue options. So just I don't know, just some weird choices with that sort of stuff that bothered me from the gameplay side of things. But if you're just looking at like the core, like you know, boomer shooter style, like it was fun, going and like, okay, this room has a guy on the left, a guy on the right. I need to like peek out in this angle and try to kill this guy really quickly. Like that all worked fine, and kind of traversing the map as well. You just notice there's like a little jump pad there that you can go on. Like that was all fine. I thought level design wise, it was okay. The way the enemies were placed, the discovery, you discover things as you're playing. I thought that was all fine. But I do feel like there just could be more with the overall kind of feel of the gameplay. Maybe it's more on the quality of life side than anything, but yeah. So that's just kind of how I'm feeling about the gameplay. Honestly, I wasn't too crazy about it at first, and the more I played, I was like, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. Just because like these style shooters weren't something that I necessarily like grew up on. It was like a little bit before my time, but I have played Wolfenstein, I have played Doom, but I don't really have like the true nostalgia really for like these type of shooters. Um, so that's just something that like you know maybe the people playing this game, the target audience, which we'll talk about, maybe they also kind of have a that nostalgia for these sort of shooters, and it's just something I don't really have. So maybe these quality of life things aren't really a big issue, but just from my perspective, they were.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the axe was very cool. Like, because I picked up an axe. I don't know if you got the axe, but that
Yeah.
was a decently fun weapon to use in this game. and like was actually like, I know you kind of stuck with the shotgun, but like when I was using the axe, I was like, okay, this is actually fun swinging this thing once you got the hang of it. But I don't think I really had any like serious problems with the gameplay. It's not my style of game either, but the problems kind of started immediately with the story. And this is geez Louise. This is an episode to watch, folks. I'll tell you that. It's so, for context, you kind of look at the Steam page, right? And you get a kind of all these screenshots of the game, and you have a pretty armored up main character. The main character's name is Martyr. I was looking back at my notes. The Martyr. The story here is that basically the apocalypse is happening, and only you, the Martyr, can go through this Citadel, kind of almost like the Raid Redemption, if anybody's ever seen that movie, or even the remake of Judge Dredd. Kind of like one person has to like climb this like giant citadel or building filled with enemies, which I think is a totally fine, if not basic plot for something like this. But you look at the Steam page, and if you've been watching the YouTube or watching on Spotify or whatever, they show you your character, the Martyr, in the bottom left part of the screen, and you start off with not that much armor in the game, and it just felt a little like objectifying, right? And like even like there's all this imagery of being tied up, and like even in the beginning when you start out the game, it's like kind of laid out on a table. And if you look at the Steam page, none of the screenshots or pictures show that. They show the armored up version of the Martyr. So it was a little bit of a shock for me. Like the story starts and your main character's laid out on a table, half naked, whatever. It's like, I'm an adult. It's like I wasn't like I wasn't clutching my pearls, but it's just not something I was looking to play necessarily. And also, you keep running into these characters throughout this game, that I guess are they're all like Sister Colette or Sister this, Sister that, as if they're nuns. And listen, these I would say are godless women. I don't like this is this was I like it. I don't know. It's just I don't like it. It felt very objectifying to women, to me. A lot of like the story kind of set up these plot devices so that you can kind of as a player experience these female characters this way, which I kind of take a little bit of issue with. And it makes it hard to play. Now, if that's what you're into, I guess I don't know, but it was like so distracting because I ended up not even like wanting to talk to a lot of characters because I was like, well, if I could just run around and swing this axe and kill aliens, I will get some fun out of this game. But it is as you said earlier, a linear game, so you do kind of have to progress through the story, and it's just a little wild. It's not my cup of tea. It's not my cup of juice. Okay, and so I don't know. The story is, and this will lead into the art too. But like it bothered me.
Yeah, I'm on the other end. I loved it. I think no, I definitely agree. Like it's yeah, like you said, this is kind of bleeding into the art a bit as well. But I had no problem with kind of that core story that you mentioned. Kind of climbing the Citadel. That's like totally fine. But I also was a little thrown back as well because of the Steam page. I think this was a game we even like you had shared with me, and you're like, oh, like this looks cool, let's add it to the wish list. And then like it came out and we're like, all right, let's try it out. And loading up the game, I'm like, okay, this is fine. And then I'm kind of seeing some of the characters, and I'm like, okay, what? Like, is this the right game? I went back and checked the Steam page. I was like, was this shown on the Steam page? So it definitely took me back a little bit, and it's also not my thing. And I think this is one of those games where, like, if I would be, because of, and this is talking about the art, but because of certain characters in this game, I would be like embarrassed for people to see me playing it. Like, if I was like at PAX, right? And I open up well, maybe PAX, people would be like, dude, that's awesome. But if I was at like the library, right, or something, or like flipped open my laptop and started playing this, or like Starbucks or something, I'd be like, I hope no one's looking at me with these sort of characters. And again, like, this is also something that's like decently common, right? There's a whole kind of genre of this sort of art style, but it's just not my thing. And we took a look at like the community hub as well and saw kind of some of the screenshots people are posting. People are just weird out there, to be honest. Like, with these sort of games, with that sort of art style, and it's almost a shame as well because of I think the core gameplay was good, and I almost like would have preferred if this stuff was just a different theme, right? I don't have a problem with all the different characters in the game, or like seeing your character in the bottom left, but if this was like a purely like a sci-fi theme or something like that, or medieval theme versus like being and it's not just that it's anime. Even if it was just like a basic anime, this is like, sexualized anime. This is like something that you would look up on a certain website, probably, right? That problem,
Which one?
yeah, there's a few of them. I'll text it to you. But and it's weird. This is a weird line to like walk on, right? Because like I don't want to bash anyone that likes this sort of stuff,
Mhm.
but it's also just not our thing, right? Like, it's just, I don't know, I mean, it's right there. I mean, if you're looking on the screen, like, it's not necessary to me. So yeah, that was a problem, and I have more notes on the art and sort of that stuff when we talk about that, but um, from the story aspect, that they was just so distracting that I didn't even care about the story. I was just like, I also was like, and me, I'm not a big dialogue guy in games anyway, but in the beginning, like, I'm always willing to like read some of the dialogue, to see if like it's a interesting story. But then I got to a point where it's like, I don't even want to talk to these characters. So I was in the same boat as you, where I'm like, just get me through to the next story, beat, or let me access the shop, whatever it might be. And so, yeah, I'm with you on that. It just kind of didn't feel super necessary to have this sort of stuff. I mean, even right there, they're on screen, they're equipping armor. I don't know. It's just not my kind of thing. So, but plenty to talk about with the art, though. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but did you have any other thoughts on the art for the game?
For the art, yeah. I mean, so I I will say I like the boomer shooter art style in general. That I've always kind of gravitated towards it. I look back at one of the I was like TwitchCon that we saw Project Warlock at
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And that the game was really cool. And obviously, pixel graphics are we like indie games, so we're not shy about them. And a lot of this looked really cool. I will say that. And, even when you're walking up to the Citadel in the beginning, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, this is before like it really gets graphic. I think I was like, oh, this kind of feels like an old computer game, which
Mm.
I think is like should be the goal here. And kind of this like empty, like this is black sky, whereas like they didn't even try to put a texture in it. And you're just kind of running around with these really basic hexagons and stuff like that. And the enemies were hit or miss, I think, like the way they look. But uh, the real issue was kind of for me was this kind of sexualized anime art style that it just felt not only it's not my thing, but like it felt out of place with the rest of the game, right? Because if you're looking at this game and you're like, wow, this kind of looks like Doom, this kind of looks like whatever, and then all of a sudden just a really just flat hand drawn anime girl that's half naked is standing
Who's not
there.
flat, yeah.
Who's not flat by any stretch of the imagination, but just like
yeah,
not pixelated, just like totally just taken out of like a image file, just pasted into the game. And it's just like why go through the trouble of trying to make something that's so nostalgic and do this? But I will say this probably won't be the last boomer shooter that we play. I think that you're always bound to see somebody try to revitalize the genre and do something different with it, but it's so hard to do something different with it, and it really doesn't speak to the younger generation. And maybe this does. I mean, I'm not sure. Like this could be something different. That maybe this is where this style of game is going. I hope not, but it felt like weird just to like kind of be running around. I'm like, oh, I kill these aliens. I got this really cool axe, there's all these different guns and like cool upgrades and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden boom, it's just a half naked anime woman. And like you said, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum or anything like that. It's just not for me. And I felt like the Steam page was a little bit of a misguided Steam page. Obviously you can only show so much, and there is a warning there, right? If you look at it, but like you got to scroll down if you're reading everything, and then you get the mature content description. But it only says frequent violence or gore and general mature content. I don't know if that's just what they always put for suggestive stuff, but it was a shock, especially to see it. And like, if you've been watching this video, you've probably seen a lot, and you're just like, "What the heck was this game? Why did they review this one?" It's a slow January, I swear. But but yeah, I don't know. It's. I thought it was a little bit of a shame, and because I do think there was some really good work done here to kind of replicate that nostalgic vibe as well. So, not a huge fan of the mishmash here. It's a little scary, and honestly, I just don't. Like I said, don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but honestly, if you got to see it in a game, I don't. I think it's pretty accessible elsewhere. I think I'm almost positive. So I don't know. So
I'm
anyway,
pretty positive.
There's something I might know. No, yeah, it's yeah. I don't want to say much more because I can go on and on about my problems with it. But
yeah,
and like I said, I'm not a prude. I've seen this stuff before. It's not scary to me. It's just wild. I don't know.
It is. Yeah, it really does feel out of place. And one thing I noted down was that, for a game that in the description, it says Beyond Citadel is an anime style retro throwback shooter. I feel like the anime style is only with the characters. Mm-hmm. It's with nothing else in the game. So I just kind of, and that's what makes it feel like, they're just kind of like pasted in, is that they're just so out of place from an art standpoint that I wish if they wanted to be this kind of game with these anime characters, like have some more anime influence over, the other characters. Even the enemies in the game didn't really seem like really anime influenced, in my opinion. And I'm not a big anime guy in general, but I feel like the majority of people would, if they just saw like a clip of this gameplay without the character in the bottom left, they wouldn't even bring up anime, unless they're looking at the legs of the character right there. But um, if if it was just showing some like gunplay, they wouldn't even associate anime with this, which is like weird to me because if you're gonna kind of put that front and center, it should be better integrated into the game, into the art of the game. So that was a problem for me. It kind of felt like they didn't really. It was almost felt like the anime was either an afterthought or like they just were kind of on the fence and they just kind of went down. They didn't pick a direction that they really wanted to go, and I think that ended up hurting the game from an art standpoint. And also, big issue for me, probably even bigger than the anime stuff, because I know some people are into it. Is like the UI for the game. It's just kind of all over the place. Now granted, like, or luckily, it does have in the top right. It always has like the controls that you can press, which is great because I often kind of forgot what I needed to press. So that was helpful. But I also just felt like it was just again like not really well thought through. Especially, I mentioned this earlier. There's a certain point you get into the game, you find a shop. There's a sign on the wall that says shop. You go in there, there's an NPC you can talk to. The first one I found, I went in and talked to the NPC, and I thought after the dialogue that it would open up the shop. It didn't. I kept talking to them. I'm like, where is the shop? Like, it says shop here. And then I realized in the next shop I was at, the shop button, when you're talking to them, is in the bottom left. It says like buy special or something like that. And I just don't know why. That's just such a weird choice. When you're advertising that there's a shop there, it should just be easy to access that shop. Or there should be like items, like a Zelda style, right? Where like, there's a shopkeeper and like you can see the items on a shelf somewhere or something like that. It just felt kind of just a weird choice. Also, there's not really any consistency with like the fonts in the game, which is a problem for me. I kind of felt like again, there's a little all over the place. You got some like oh my god, what are we looking at here? You've got like just a mishmash of like different fonts. It feels like the game doesn't really have like an identity because of all these weird art choices, and that was just an issue for me. And that I feel like the font thing. I don't want to give like uh, you know I don't want to bash the fonts too much because it's kind of a silly thing, but it's something I pay attention to because I like fonts. I don't know. I've always been a guy that likes to download cool fonts and try out cool things. To me, it gives like an alpha feel where like I feel like this game isn't finished, even though it's not early access on Steam. But like just that small issue of like having all these weird different fonts all the time makes me think that there's just not any consistency in the game and that it's still a work in progress. I will say though that the loading screens look cool. You'll see some of them in the gameplay where it's kind of the hand drawn anime art, but it's sort of just like the white outline with a black background. That looks pretty cool, and you can find some stuff in the game as well, kind of like little secrets or little kind of just like pieces of art essentially that are cool. They look pretty interesting. So definitely a talented artist made this sort of stuff, which is cool. But that's obviously not enough to kind of have me praise the entire game for its art. But I do agree. Like if you're just looking at the kind of the boomer shooter elements, it does a good job. It feels like a boomer shooter. It looks like a boomer shooter. It has that. It doesn't have like the smoothest animation, right? It's kind of got like the little bit of that stop motiony kind of animation, which like a boomer shooters have. So they did a good job with that from an art standpoint. Also, don't know if we mentioned this, but this is technically, I don't know if it's truly a sequel, but there's a game that this developer made called the Citadel that is also a boomer shooter that I believe is anime inspired. But again, that Steam page doesn't really show a lot of anime sort of stuff on it, similar to the Beyond Citadel one. So I don't know if that game also kind of follows down the same path as this one. I did see some people say that they enjoyed this game more than the previous one. So I guess there are some fans of the kind of Citadel series. So that's something that just I guess to keep in mind is that this is this developer has had experience with a previous game art style, so it's I imagine it's maybe some reused assets and things like that, just so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then the last note I had on the art is actually like the logo for the game is pretty cool, but I feel like it has nothing to do with the game. Like it doesn't even feel like it's the same game. Like if you looked at the logo for the game, like it's pretty, I don't know, pretty cool looking. Let me pull the video back there. Like that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of this like I don't even know, like this
I mean,
sort
I guess
of.
that's the pyramid from the top down, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely has some sort of like abstract influence, but like just looking at this, I wouldn't even think anime was involved at
Yeah.
all. So again, it's just like this weird choice to like try to force the anime into this game. And maybe it works for some people, but definitely didn't work for me. Um, so yeah, a few positives with the art, but overall, I just kind of think the anime kind of took away from what the game could have been.
Yeah. So also, just so you know, for the Citadel, the first game, from what I can tell, it's not as graphic, but there is a mod called the Bottomless mod. So, listen, folks, I think that tells us all we need to know about the people that want to play these games. That's all right. It's totally fine. Now, I'll also do. I did have actually one thing I wanted to say on the art. Is I do think it's unnecessary. When you die, you kind of become not first person anymore. So you kind
Mhm.
of just get like a look at your body, like
Yeah.
totally emaciated. And I thought that was like a little weird. Like why be first person the whole time and all of a sudden it's like you kind of explode and you're just like, look at you, you're dead. It's not even like a like when you would see in like I guess Call of Duty or something like that where the camera angle would kind of float up. It would just like you
Right.
die and the body would get thrown out in front of the camera or something like that. It was just a little weird, but
Yeah.
I digress. Sound wise, pretty basic kind of soundtrack, I would say. And kind of I felt like stock enemy sound effects as well. I mentioned the scream when you die, and it was jarring and scared me. Like I would die because I would get scared of like these enemies that would pop out and kill me, and then on top of that, you go, "Ah!" And I'm just like, oh Jesus, and yeah, but I don't really have a whole lot to say. That just kind of stuck in my mind of just like because I died quite a few times, you know,
Mhm.
um, and that's just kind of it kept like scaring me every time. I knew it was coming, so I mean that's
Yeah.
more on me. So, but it's not like there's anything about this soundtrack and sound effects to write home about either.
Agreed. Yeah. I think the music was like I wrote down it was like playful kind of
Mhm.
sounding, which to me doesn't really fit the way the game looks or like I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking of Doom too much, but I kind of felt like it should be a little bit more hardcore or like anime inspired. Like, there's some great like theme music for like anime shows, right? I just kind of felt like it could have had a little bit more oomph, a little bit more excitement with the music. There were certain times where I was like killing a bunch of enemies and like the music, it kind of felt like I don't know, like elevator music, and I'm just like, why is this the soundtrack for what I'm doing right now? So that was definitely odd. Again, it's not that the music was bad; it just didn't fit that well with what I was doing. And I think, yeah, sound effect wise, game or the guns sound fine. Everything was all right. Other than you can actually see on screen, there's these kind of red enemies that you kill. They had such a weird death sound. It kind of was like it sounded like a kid screaming or like nah like I don't even it just seemed out of place. A lot of things with this game just felt out of place. So that was just one thing with the sound or the enemies that bothered me. Yes, there is a scream too when you die, and I mean I don't know if I mentioned the gameplay part, but it's not that easy of a game too. It's similar to a lot of other boomer shooters where you really got to pay attention and Enemies do a decent amount of damage to you. So, you do die a decent amount. So you're hearing that sound quite a bit. I don't have a lot of other notes on the music. Like you said, nothing to really write home about. And kind of made me just want it to be better. Like I felt like it could have been better all around for this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And getting to the performance of the game, I did actually have a couple like weird buggy moments, and then like oddly strange loading times. At times for me, but nothing game breaking or anything like that. How about you?
Yeah, I only had one weird little issue where I tried to alt tab out of the game just to take some notes, and for some reason, like my mouse was like stuck to like the bottom right of my monitor. I couldn't move it and then I alt tab back into the game, and then everything worked fine. So just a weird little issue with that. It could have been that maybe I should have put the game on like borderless windowed or something, and then it would have been fine. But that was really the only issue. I didn't have any like loading issues or anything. Like that. So nothing major for me.
And you played on Steam, right?
Yeah, I played on Steam. Yeah, is that you played on Steam as well?
Yeah, I did. It's available on Steam and the Nintendo DS.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Nice. Very cool.
That's gonna bring us to the rating, and that was a lie, obviously. It was
There's like one listener out there, like, dude, awesome. What is not on there? Yeah, the eShop that closed a decade ago is not on there.
It did feel like it. This felt like it could have been on the PSP, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we got our ratings. Our rating system is as follows. Your best games are certified fresh juice. These are like Norp Apolog, Preserve, Balatro. A tier is a steal. These are games like Billionaire, Crypt Custodian, and The Cub. And then after that, you got Get on Sale. A lot of games fall into this one. You get like things that maybe aren't perfect, but if it's on sale, maybe grab it. You might have some fun with it, like Wizard with a Gun, Hellskate. And then after that, you got Manager Special. These are like pretty not good games that may just kind of land with a certain audience and or just like a really specific kind of genre. And then finally, Spoiled Milk. These are games that we don't think anybody should play. So, what's your rating for Beyond Citadel?
So for Beyond Citadel, I'm giving this a spoiled milk. It's just not something I would recommend to people. It's not really for me. I think, looking at the community hub for the game, I think people are playing this game for a different reason other than the gameplay. Most of them, at least. Some of them I did see compliment the gameplay. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot better options. Like you said, if you're looking for that sort of stuff, you don't need to play a game to see it. I'm giving this a spoiled milk, starting the year off strong.
Yeah, actually a lot worse than last year. We started off with Norp Apolog last year.
Yeah, we gave that certified fresh juices.
We did. And I think I'm going to have to give this a spoiled milk as well. When I first started playing, I kind of was like already in the Manager Special range, right? I was like, it's not really for me. Whatever. I'm sure somebody's going to enjoy it. And I do think there are people who enjoy it. You mentioned the community hub. But the more I played it, the more I was just like, oh, this is not about the game. This just doesn't feel like, and I'm the same way. I wouldn't feel really comfortable recommending this to anybody because, well, first of all, I wouldn't want to assume somebody wanted to play it. And, I just not, we're not the demo for this. I don't think. And I don't think a lot of people are. I think it's very niche. This is more niche than the Manager Special. So spoiled milk. It is for Beyond Citadel. Now, I came up with a new tagline for us.
Ooh, okay.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
Fresh juice, indie game podcast. If the juice ain't worth the squeeze, we'll tell you.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Ooh,
And
man,
that
we
juice,
just don't
juice ain't worth the squeeze
that
on
juice
this
was
one.
not worth the squeeze, folks.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Next week we got a game called Warden's Will, which does look to be pretty cool. Kind of um, like a third person shooter roguelike. So
Yeah. Yep.
those are some buzzwords. It does look good though. But we do have some listener questions, and as always, you can submit these in the Fresh Juice Discord. The first coming from Coppola, who was devastated that he didn't get a question in last week. That's okay. He did it this week, Cap. Welcome to 2025. What game genres do you think will be leading the indie sphere in 2025?
Well, I think an easy one is roguelikes, right? That's
I think you got to
just
be more specific than I think roguelike's too general now, right?
okay. All right. So I'm gonna say third person roguelike shooters. Anime. That's a good question. I think like bullet hell roguelikes seem to be kind of a more popular thing right now, just kind of having more of that bullet hell sort of vibe. Um I don't know. It's a tough thing to guess because I feel like indie games always surprise us, and there's always like Vampire Survivors came out of nowhere, and then now we have all these kind of Vampire Survivors likes, right? It's kind of created its own sort of genre in a way. So I don't know. It's a tough one. What are you thinking for this?
Uh, man, I don't know. Like, part of me wants to say there's clearly going to be a push for more Balatro likes, I would say, rather than like
Mhm.
your classic Slay the Spire likes in terms of deck builder roguelikes.
Yeah, number go up games.
Yeah, number go up games like we saw Billionaire. Obviously, that was a fun one as well. I think that I think that Survivor likes still have like a huge opportunity to like innovate this year.
Hmm.
And I think we started to see it with Halls of Torment, and I'm hoping to see more of that this year. I think that could be pretty big. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably the kind of games we'll see dominate the indie sphere. We'll see though.
Yeah, I would like to just speaking of like survivor likes, I think we've seen some co-op ones, which is great, but I think it would be kind of interesting to explore maybe something that's like a PvP sort of survivor like where maybe you and your squad are trying to last longer than another squad that you're sending things over to each other, right? Something
Yeah,
like that could be kind of cool. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to play around with there, and I even potentially, we talked about like 33 Immortals, right? We're like we've never really played a game where there's 33 player, kind of that almost like a slice of a raid. Maybe that's something we'll see more of too, of just these, you know, um, big player pools doing things together. Um, from an indie perspective, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Good question, Kat.
great question, Cap. And it actually kind of gave me an idea for this next question coming from Eugen, another certified Eugen banger here. You are now head of Grandma's Inheritance, a brand new indie studio with virtually infinite money. Thanks, Grandma. What game do you make? What about if it were just the two of you instead? Do you want to go with
Yeah,
yours, and then I'll go with mine, and then we'll say what we do together?
yeah. You go. You go first. You said you had an idea.
Yeah. So I was just you kind of gave me this popped into my head when you said like a PvP Vampire Survivors like, right?
Mhm.
What if you took the core idea of multiplayer Zombie U from the Wii U, where one person's just placing the enemies,
Oh
and
yeah.
then the other person is doing the Vampire Survivor thing, and then you can even have somebody also place like it could be like this weird what do they call it? Asymmetrical experience where you got one player. It's a three-player game. One player is playing as the survivor. One player is dropping the enemies, and then the other players dropping the quests and the different kind of power ups they can find. I think that would be like like you're kind of all like it's kind of 2v1, but like the quest could be like super dangerous or whatever. So like you don't know what their kind of their goal is. He was like, oh, do I want to help the vampire survivor, or do I want to make it really hard and see what they do? You know, I think that'd be like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be awesome. I feel like we need more games like that in general, right? Where there's like kind of puppet masters, right? For what's going on, and kind of gave me an idea as well of like kind of when I was mentioning like the 33 Immortals sort of thing, but also like PvP Vampire Survivors. I think it could be really cool to have like imagine like Vampire Survivors or Survivors like Tetris 99 style, where there's like 99 kind of, maybe it's like a little bit more accelerated too, so there's like it's like happening quicker and you're sending stuff to like other games and then people are getting eliminated until there's like one left. That could be kind of cool.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, Survivor 99 or something like that it could be called. Yeah, but if it was just the two of us, so does that mean we don't have grandma's inheritance and we have our funds? Because I don't think we're making a game.
Oh no, we're not making a game. But no, grandma gave it to both of us.
Okay.
Shout out Grammy. Nancy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm gonna throw this one at you. Tell me how it feels. Gauntlet, Dark Legacy.
Yes.
Just Gauntlet, Dark Legacy. But there is an open world aspect to it, right? Where you still like, rather than having that home base where Scorn is hanging out or whatever the hell the wizard's name was, it's an open kind of an open world where you can kind of go to different towns and different castles and stuff like that to like get different upgrades and fight bosses and stuff like that, but also still have like the portals that will bring you to the classic arcade experience. Almost not like I'm thinking like Gauntlet Dark Legacy, except it's Breath of the Wild, where you hit the shrines, like together.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I'm always in for some Gauntlet action, and it kind of almost reminds me as well as like so like No Man's Sky. You know, obviously big open world game, but they have something in that game called Expeditions where you go to a space station, right? You're kind of exploring the universe alone. You can do it multiplayer if you want. Then you go to a space station and it kind of loads you into an instance where like you're seeing all the other players walk around, they're getting quests or whatever. And then you can choose to do like an expedition with those other players and you just be like, oh, we're at the same space station. Let's just party up and go do this. And then like, you know, it's kind of like a raid sort of in a way. So yeah, I think an open world ish kind of Gauntlet is like what I've been wanting, you know, for a while with the same sort of vibe as Dark Legacy. I don't know if we'll ever get it, but
the question that those theoretical devs would have to ask and try to find the answers: how do you make an open world game feel like an arcade game?
Yeah,
right. Yep. And that would be kind of interesting. But great question, Eugen.
Yeah.
And next question comes from K-More, who asks, would you rather have the Ocarina of Time or one of the special masks from Majora's Mask?
I mean, I don't remember every mask and what they did, but I probably would want the Ocarina, just because, you know, time, like you changing time, you know, and obviously you could do, like Song of Storms, you could do all the songs, right, with the Ocarina. I just feel like that's an easy one for me. But again, I don't remember all the masks from Majora's Mask, but there's none of them that I do remember where I'm like, yeah, I definitely, want to turn into a golem or something.
Let's look at the masks. Majora's masks. I think I'm with you on the Ocarina of Time. I think it'd be sick to just go outside. I'm like, hey, babe, I'm going to work. Let me just play Epona's song real quick. and a horse shows up, and I'm off to the races. The transformational masks are the Deku masks, which you can transform into Deku Link, and it allows Link to interact with other Deku scrubs, stun enemies, hop on water, use flowers to fly, shoot bubbles. It's cool. And you got the Goron mask, turns into a Goron, so move heavy objects, roll at speed, ground pound, walk on lava. Walk on lava. Lava, to me, when I was a kid, I thought it would be a bigger problem.
Yeah. Like quicksand.
Quicksand. I think whose joke is that?
Is that John Mulaney? It might be John Mulaney.
John Mulaney or like Dimitri.
Oh, maybe Dimitri Martin.
Yeah,
something like that.
Zora's mask, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Fight underwater, swim quickly, use the boomerang like fins for combat. Pretty sweet. And the Fierce Deities mask.
Oh yeah.
Wear it to, but you can only do it in boss rooms, so it's pretty limited. You become an adult form, armed with powerful two-handed Fierce Deity sword, which can deal multiple times the damage of the base Kokiri sword. Shoot sword beams when Z targeting. Hard to say. Ocarina of Time's got a little bit more oomph.
Yeah. Use, practicality.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Also, I said Gollum mask. I meant Goron mask. All right. It's been a long day. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Ocarina for sure.
The Gollum mask gives you the insatiable thirst for the ring.
Yeah, right. Don't want that one either.
And then finally, Arcarp asks, rice or noodles?
Are we including like pasta noodles, I guess, or are we doing like Asian noodles?
I mean, listen, interpret it as you want. I read it as like, I'm going to a Thai restaurant or a Chinese restaurant. Do you want to get rice or you want to get noodles? Like fried rice or like a lo mein almost.
Oh man. That's a tough one. I like both like equally. Yeah. I mean, I do a weird thing. For those that don't know, I do a weird thing with white rice. I put ketchup on it, and that's good. Yeah. I like that. I also, there's a lot of types of rice I like. I'll go with noodles. Like I'm just thinking like a hibachi. You get the rice, you get the noodles. I'm always like in love with the noodles, so I'm gonna go with the noodles. But it's a tough one.
Yeah. I think so. For me, noodles are like if I want to get cozy, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh man, I can't wait for like a nice cozy dinner. It's like a cold day or a long day. I'm like hungry. I want to get some greasy in me. Noodles are the way to go. But like when I think of like when I used to work on the road, which was not that long ago, like if I wanted like a quick, like kind of easy lunch, I would just stop in a random Chinese restaurant and get a pork fried rice or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it would just like hit the spot. It was like perfect. And it tasted so good. And I also like love biryani too. I think we talked about him like one of the early episodes, but I think I gotta go rice.
Okay.
And I mean, to quote another comedian, rice is great when you want 1,000 of something.
Yeah.
1,000,000 of something.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old Mitch Hedberg, right?
Hedberg recipes. Yep.
R.I.P.
But that is going to bring us to the end of the show, which means we're also going to go visit the rec room where we recommend something that perhaps isn't an indie game. Matthew, what are you recommending this week?
I am recommending a band, actually, which I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it. It might have just been like on TikTok. It's a band called Flycatcher. And I don't know. I've only listened to a few of their songs so far. They've got a song called Brother that's pretty good, but I don't know, they kind of give me like 90s vibes. Almost like a Marcy's Playground sort of like vibes in a way, but like a different voice for the singer. I don't know. It's just been a good vibe. Their music kind of kind of like 90s like rock-ish sort of alternative rock. But yeah, check them out. Called Flycatcher. I don't know. They, like I said, they got a good song called Brother, and they got some other good songs as well. But that's been the main one I've been listening to. But just kind of found them like 2 days ago, so I haven't had enough time yet to explore their discography. But yeah, decent band. Check it out, Flycatcher.
I'll check them out.
Yeah.
Probably when I'm editing this, I'll pop them on and
there you go.
The old listless. Listen, I don't know. My Rec Room is the movie I saw on New Year's Day, which was Nosferatu, which is directed by Robert Eggers, starring Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, Aaron Taylor Johnson. It was so Robert Eggers. I think I was talking about last week that I was binge watching all of Robert Eggers' films, which he only had 3 others prior to this movie, but they've all been bangers in my opinion. And this was no different. I'm a fan of the original Nosferatu, the 1922. I used to like putting it on during Halloween because it's like silent film, whatever, kind of creepy, weird, and it was always like free on YouTube or whatever. And fun fact, that is where the idea, and this is spoiler alert for a 100-year-old movie, that is where the first time we saw vampires being weak to the sun. It was in Nosferatu. It was never in Bram Stoker's Dracula. So
good to know.
Nosferatu, basically the story of Dracula, but they didn't have the rights to it at the time, so they just said it's Count Orlok this time. And this movie was an awesome interpretation. It was very faithful to the original while doing a lot of things new. Kind of gave a lot of characterization to characters that just really didn't in the silent film for obvious reasons. It was silent and just like it's hard to give a lot of characterizations to stuff. It was creepy. They did a whole new take on what Nosferatu looked like, which I think will throw some people off of the people that are fans of the original, but I think that it kind of worked. It felt like an old, undead, like lord from Romania. It looked like it. Bill Skarsgård played him. He played Pennywise the clown as well. He does excellent work. And I don't know. It's not going to be for everybody. I will admit that. Robert Eggers has a certain kind of movie making style that isn't for everyone, but I still think it was worth it. It was a beautiful looking movie, and it was a great Christmas film.
Good. Good.
So, but if you don't like horror movies, Robert Eggers also made a movie called The Northman, which I think is like one of the most awesome revenge epics of the past like 20 years. That like came out during COVID, so not a lot of people saw it. So, and some Viking revenge epic, that's pretty badass.
Ooh.
One of the coolest like shot final battle scenes in that movie, really cool. And then also he does The Lighthouse, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's not really horror, like some people call it horror, but that's just like 2 bros hanging out in the lighthouse. To be honest, yeah,
cool. Hell yeah. Very cool. Yeah, definitely. I remember watching Nosferatu in like my film class in high school. And that's like, I've probably got to check out the new one at some point. Yeah. I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the story is pretty much the same, but they just add like real modern movie stuff to it and writing to it. So, and some wild performances, I'll tell you that. And some pretty graphic. Listen, I know we were talking about how we didn't like the graphic stuff in the game, but this is different. It made sense. We wanted the vampire. It was basically Twilight.
Oh, cool. They sparkle in the sun.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to do for the show, folks. You can continue to find me on everything at Fresh Buds Pod. And I have another podcast called Fresh and Buds. Good time over there. Find us on everything at Fresh Juice Pod. Matthew, where can people find you?
Find me at Matty Gorm, Gorm, on all the socials and all the good stuff. And remember, if it ain't worth the squeeze, no, wait, what is it?
And remember, if the juice ain't worth the squeeze, we'll tell you. Goodbye.